This past fall, what really took the limelight in the media was the issue around neonicotinoid seed treatments. And what we're facing now as an agricultural community is dealing with the fact that we've got an urban population, which is 99% of the population. There's 1% that's actually producing food for the other 99%. And we need to re-educate consumers who have been generations away from the farm and don't have an appreciation of what it takes to produce food. We have to educate them on what we're doing in agriculture today. And when we look at agriculture today, one of the things as farmers that we should be most proud of, and I say that as a farmer down near Chatham, Ontario, is that never in the history of mankind have we produced a food supply that is safe as it is today. And that's by any measurement. And I don't care any of the non-government organizations, what they want to say about different technologies, but in the composite, if we look at any measure, we are producing the safest food supply that we have in the history of mankind. We're doing it with environmental stewardship practices that far exceed what we did in previous generations. We're doing it in terms of a low risk. If we look on a global basis and corn carryover, I mean literally, it's like the auto industry in just in time. We have a few weeks of crop that we're managing and cycling around the world, and we're able to keep the majority of citizens around the world fed in a way that we've never been able to do in history. So we've got the lowest risk food supply. You know, we've got generations of people, especially in Western civilization, that have never gone hungry. And one of the things that's tied to that then is that when you haven't gone hungry and you haven't gone without for a long time, it gives you the opportunity to start to question your food supply and what's being used on that food or to produce that food. And so what we now need to do as an agricultural population and as farmers is to re-educate the general public on what we're doing, how we know that the tools that we're using, whether it's crop protection products, whether it's biotechnology, and other tools that we're using, how we know that those have been proven safe through experimentation that far exceeds anything to do with pharmaceutical drugs as an example. And so we need to re-educate the general population on that. If we can do that, we can maintain the trust of the general public, and which will allow us to maintain what's being called our social license to farm, which is that our ability to make decisions on the farm in terms of what's best for our own operations with the technologies that are available. And education becomes a key part of being able to maintain that capability on the farm as we go forward. What can a farmer do to aid the cause? First of all, I think is to stay educated on the technologies that you're using, to be able to explain to people in urban areas why you use them. Seed treatments is a great example. If I'm using an insecticide seed treatment, why am I doing it? So if I look at my own farm operation, there's 3 or 4 things that are top of mind. First of all, there's insects in the ground. There always have been. We've been using different seed treatments for 50 years. It's just that the one that is being questioned today with the neonics has been the most recent family that we've adopted. And we adopted that family for good reasons. As an example is out of better safety for mammals, better safety for most species. And if we can control the dust that comes from air planters, you know, then we look at minimal risk to honeybees as well. But why am I using those seed treatments? So first of all, it's to control the pests in the soil. If I can do that, I can do several things. I can start to adopt no-till and minimum till practices, and I can use cover crops. That allows me to leave a much better environmental footprint. It allows me to reduce my soil and water erosion, allows me to take better efficiency of the nutrients that I'm utilizing on my farm. In addition to that, I'm able to plant earlier. If I'm able to plant earlier, I'm actually able to increase my yield potential. And then another key benefit is if I can control those pests early in the season or when they're still in the ground or when that plant is small, I'm also eliminating the potential use of higher risk products, including foliar insecticides. And so that leaves a safer environmental footprint at the end of the day. So there's a number of reasons why we, as an example, we use seed treatments. And so we need to be able to explain that as a farmer to our neighbors and friends and the people in urban centers, both individually and as a collective. Biotechnology is another great example. Why do we utilize biotechnology on the farm? Well, first of all, it's to control insects. And a lot of people understand that without biotechnology, there are insects. You can see that in conventional cornfields as an example. And we dealt with that in previous generations. So insects like rootworm, if we have a trait in that plant, we don't have to use a much higher toxic insecticide in furrow or as a seed treatment. We basically eliminate the use of that if we've got that trait. If we have the conditions that are right, for example, in the summer and the fall for insects, what we can see is infestations on the corn cob. And what does that do? It not only leads to the loss of kernels on that cob from insect damage, but what most people don't understand, especially in urban areas, is that opens that cob, that ear up to diseases. And if we get diseases into that ear of corn, that actually can enter into the feed supply supply and can be a risk to certain species such as hogs as an example. So what we're doing by utilizing biotechnology in plants and in the crops that we're producing is we're actually creating a safer feed supply. And we know that because biotechnology on the crops has been around since 1996, first registrations with Roundup Ready soybeans. So we've had literally 10, 11, 12, 13 billion meals served around the world with absolutely no question as to the safety of the food that we're eating. So these are some of the things as farmers, if we can understand the facts and why we're using the technology and be able to explain it, our urban neighbors readily get it, they understand it. But the question is being able to do that and be able to talk with 10 million different people in a province of Ontario alone as an example who don't understand what we're doing on the farm. So the key is to be active as a farmer, understand what you're doing, try to get the facts across to your neighbors and friends.
This video is brought to you by Farms.com.